Good evening, welcome to Simon's Trading Channel. Happy Thursday to you, getting close towards the end of the week on CME. Bit further to go for Bybit, and it's all looking a bit red, isn't it? Let's face it. Here's CME, weekly, yeah, looking the same. I think the question that's on my mind is, will this gap end up getting filled? I don't know, I'm still not convinced. I'll explain to you why right now. Oh, and yeah, I hope you're all well and you've enjoyed your day. Thank you for joining me for another one of my videos. Do one every day, so if you enjoy it, like and subscribe. All right, so that's the weekly. This is the daily. Now, I think this is looking rather more interesting than it was earlier on today. With 3 hours to go, you know, that's a hammer candle. Now, the thing is, you can't just, well, I don't trade candle formations at all, but what I found is that they become more relevant when you put them into context. So, particularly at key areas, so the tops and the bottoms, or at support resistance during a trending move. So, yeah, on their own, not significant, but in the context of the overall, the bigger picture, then significant. You know, this was a classic, and that was coming in, having tapped. So on the way down to wherever it was, 53 something, it tapped this support resistance. So here, right? So significant. Whereas, say, for example, this, middle of a trend, you know, mid-range, probably continuation, which indeed it did. So this one, looks like it's going to turn green. This one, to me, is indeed significant, and I'll show you why right now. So on this daily time frame, actually what I want to do very quickly was on the weekly, just remind you that on this last move up, if you put a Fibonacci retracement on, top to bottom, this was the 0.5, the tap of the 0.5. So this weekly candle over here. And because of that, I think it's very important that Bitcoin doesn't get back down to those areas and actually continue to the upside. Now, where's the lowest point at which I personally would start to think that that's likely to happen, or conversely not going to happen and Bitcoin get back down below here? Well, you can see that on the daily. So of this whole move up, okay, if you put on a retracement, you will find that the 382, which I talked about as being a key area, and this was for closures, remember, was coming in at 63. And basically Bitcoin today has come down to there and then moved back up from there and is now a good $1,500 above. So, you know, I'd say that's significant. It's still what the momentum indicator on the daily, the MACD, is still well above the zero line, but it's still going to have to do quite a lot for the MACD to turn back up. So I think in a bit of no man's land at the moment on the daily time frame, but let's face it, closing like this looks better than closing down here, because a closure below the 382, you would expect then, or I would expect, I mean, I don't know what you expect, a move down somewhere close to 60,000, probably 60, 61. And with support resistance in mind, yeah, 60 would be the obvious target. Maybe with a wick down towards 59. It's still not game over there, but a full retracement of this move up would become very likely with daily closures below 59, in my humble opinion. Okay, maybe 58, but you know, in that kind of area. So I think Bitcoin's got a chance here but it's got to prove itself. And on the 4 hour, you can see a nice bounce. So from that area, which is also these wicks over here, so there's clearly a support resistance area. It was this double top that you may or may not remember me talking about when the price was over here. And you can see there, it's bouncing. Now that's not the same as reversal. A bounce is a bounce at the end of the day. And if you look at the trend, so higher highs, higher lows, as of the move down, the Bitcoin took down below here, it's got the potential for a lower low, right? But what do you need to confirm trend? Well, you need both. So for this move down, for me personally, to represent a downtrend on the 4 hour time frame, trying desperately to move this thing over, there we are, I got it, then not only do I need to see a low, which looks like it's forming, but I'd also want to see a lower high, probably below there, but clearly anywhere below the current top. So you have a high, a lower high, a low, and a lower low. So Bitcoin is part of the way there, I would say. It's part of the way of changing the 4 hour trend from up to down. The 4 hour MACD remains to the downside, although it has turned back up. However, let's call it 64,000 to turn back down again, it's not a million miles away from only $400, which is why I think that's why Bitcoin is it's hanging on, but it's not being super convincing. And you'd want this bounce really to be a lot more impulsive. Now, where the obvious kind of first areas to look for, well, yes, back above there really. So in fact, there's a better way. Let's say that this bounce does develop a bit more. So it's a sort of hypothesis. So if this wick does become a local low, then yeah, I'd want to see so Bitcoin would have a good chance of basically shrugging off this change of trend if it gets back above 67. A good chance, but I would say an even better chance if it's back above 68. So those in my opinion, so somewhere between 67 and 68, definitely on 4 hour closures, probably more like daily closures, and Bitcoin's in with a chance. Up until then, I think it's probably just more range play. Now, I had been suggesting that for a while, and I don't know if you remember, I can't remember when I recorded it, but I was talking about this move up and how you want it to hang around, and I wanted it to hang around above 65, 66, 65, without being rejected quickly. And I said if there was a quick rejection, which basically this is, then it's probably just more range play. That's kind of what it looks like at the moment. Now, because Bitcoin has already got down to these levels on this previous low, it's probably easier to look on a weekly. If I just switch back to the weekly, see this halfway point of that move up, Bitcoin already wicked down to. If indeed it's going to continue with a range play, I would suggest that kind of needs to be the weekly low, really. Because if it starts to break below particularly 50,000, which is, you know, a big distance from where it is at the moment, then I think probably 45 would be the next target. And if Bitcoin gets down to 45, well, then it's got to do a lot of work to continue this bull run, because it would need to then do a pretty much, like a 70% move. Would that be right? From 45, no, it would need to do about a 60% move from wherever it finds the low, but let's say it is at 45. It would need to do, yeah, a greater than 50% move just to get back up to the all-time high. So, yeah, I think a bit of food for thought. That's long enough for me wittering on. I'll just repeat the key areas. I think, me personally, I want to see Bitcoin get somewhere between 67 and 68,000 to shrug off this 4-hour downtrend. And I think any failures to retake at least 66 on a 4-hour and daily will probably just prove to be a lower high relative to this one, and that will then likely mean this is going to be a 4-hour and probably daily downtrend. All right, that's quite a long one. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy.